Hey guys, it's your homie Revo here, and I'm bringing you guys my first ever mental health blog. Just talking about life and stuff. And honestly, I'm really nervous about recording this, but a lot of that is due to the fact that I really don't know where to begin, and plus it's a lot. There's a lot that goes into my mental health journey in regards to why I sought out therapy originally, addressing identity issues and a lot of my disorders, which over time I'll slowly be getting into. But for now, I guess I'll just start off with the O's with, you know, with I'll just start off with the start from the beginning and basically talk about how I eventually ended up originally getting diagnosed with OCD and bipolar disorder at the very start of my mental health journey. So it all started at around like age 12 or 13 when I was in middle school, like early puberty, and yeah, it pretty like okay. So going back to middle school, early puberty, from ages 12 all the way until around 2 years ago. So from ages 12 to 23, I dealt with pretty severe porn addiction, and looking back. I realized dealing with a lot of internalized identity issues and regarding like suppressing the fact that I was bisexual because honestly, I realized I was bi and I was into women alongside men pretty much as soon as I started puberty, like in like seventh grade, eighth grade. And I'm not gonna go into very specific details, but suppressing the shame regarding my sexuality because I was hyper aware, even from a younger age, of how like queer people and like people like me in regards to because eventually I ended up getting diagnosed with ADHD, and I have autism traits, but that comes later. But dealing with all this internalized shame and also because this is also getting into the gender identity aspect, which also plays a major part because I realized I was suppressing thoughts around feeling the discomfort of my body and being naturally sensitive and having a natural feminine representation, but also like from a young age too, which is kind of a whole different, that's a whole different talk. Like I'm gonna plan on making a whole different video in regards to that part of my identity. But essentially, I was dealing with like really low self-esteem when I was in middle school from trying to quote unquote perform masculinity. And you know how it is, like by the time you get to eighth grade, like if you get to puberty, like people like dudes, like your homies all have girlfriends, or your female friends have boyfriends, and you get into that aspect. So, and I was also like, again, I was really shy and everything. So instead of like actually like pursuing deeper connections and trying to pursue like women and women and men and stuff that I was into, once I got to like high school and stuff, I pretty much like relied on porn and used porn as like basically like a drug. That's like an escape from all of that and all of those internalized issues. So like in the beginning, like in middle school stuff, it started off pretty slow. Like I'm just watching like pretty vanilla stuff. But I say once I got to like age 16 or 17, it got to a severe point. Like looking back now, I realized I got to the point where I was extremely desensitized with views when it comes to like aspects of like views on love and intimacy, especially sexuality intimacy. And and it got to the point and it got to the point where I was basically like not even kidding. I was basically watching porn or like masturbating like three to five times a day, every day from like age 16 all the way until like age 22. No, like age 22, 23. So basically until 2021, which is when I finally was able to start therapy with a psychologist. And so And when I say like desensitized, I mean like I basically got to a point where I pretty much only could get off until like extremely hardcore like taboo porn, like porn genres and porn subjects. Like I never I never de-evolved to let my morals sink to the point where I was watching actual this disgusting like illegal shit. I'll never watch like actual CP, if you know what I mean, with the initial CP or anything like that. But when I say taboo subjects, I mean when I say taboo topics, I mean pretty much shit like actual like not real rape, but like actual rape fantasy, if that like rape fantasy genres, and and I was watching like animated porn or like porn parodies or like, for example, like The Last of Us, you know, with like Ellie and Joel, and characters that were technically considered to be underage, but you know, but they're like anime characters, video game characters, so most people wouldn't really think any of that. But but my mind, but I was so anxious and at the time and there's also like another part, like there's a person who I'm not gonna name by name, and I may talk about that in the next video because it's kind of related to this, but not directly in a sense. But I was essentially going through major anxiety, like literal panic attacks and consistent intrusive thoughts about being a terrible person, and like, you know, and the feeling that I may actually be a predator, or actually I might have like a real attraction to like real minors due to watching like a lolicon and like all this hentai and like animated porn involving these like fictional characters. Even though they're fictional characters, in my mind, it's oh, it's like holy shit. And if you don't know what lolicon is, it's pretty much like hentai, so like animated porn featuring young looking, like technically like underage characters. And there's pretty much like a lot of discussion talking about that topic. And even though like I'm not gonna justify like or like try to defend lolicon or saying that I even am a lolicon, but I'm just being objective and giving the facts. Like, you know, that's pretty much what my mind was on, like heavy intrusive thoughts. And it got to the point where I was literally considering like I was a terrible person for watching that shit, you know, even for having these thoughts to begin with. Cause at the time, cause my mind is like, but the thought process was, if you're able to get off to this stuff, and you know, and you're able to watch this stuff and you know climax to it, that means deep down, right? That means you must have some type of actual like attraction to real minors. And at the time, you know, I was ignorant to like the effects of OCD, and I was ignorant to what intrusive thoughts really were. So I was just constantly spiraling. Fast forward around 6 months or so to like going into 2021, after being on the waiting list for a long time, I finally get approved by my insurance to start therapy with an actual psychologist. So, and I was, you know, I was excited because, you know, I can finally get help and finally get some answers to these questions and thoughts that I've been stuck on. So after a couple sessions with my therapist, you know, my very first therapist I worked with, fast forward, and I ended up getting diagnosed with obsessive compulsive disorder, or OCD, alongside with bipolar disorder, and then follow with this is a little off topic, but a few months later, I ended up getting hospitalized for a suicide attempt, and then as a result of that, I ended up getting diagnosed with OCD and bipolar disorder again, alongside major depressive disorder. So it only further reinforced the diagnosis that I got from my original therapist. But essentially, obsessive compulsive disorder, what OCD, intrusive thoughts, and sexual obsessions are is basically like, I'm not really the best at explaining what OCD is, but okay, so basically to give a quick summary, due to of what OCD is and what obsessions are in context of OCD is, obsessive compulsive disorder is an anxiety disorder which involves repetitive thoughts, patterns, or behaviors, followed by compulsions, which are essentially rituals or the like, behaviors that we do in order to ease the anxiety that comes with the repetitive thoughts or said actions or behaviors. Like for example, some people have contamination OCD, which are anxiety patterns and thoughts based around like germs and in the state of an individual's health. And some examples of compulsions that a person with contamination OCD may like commit in order to ease anxiety would be like, I know it may sound ridiculous like from someone who doesn't deal with the disorder, but I'm being dead serious. Like an example of a compulsion that someone may complete in order to ease that anxiety would be like, for example, washing your hands, like washing your hands for 20 seconds like on end. Like that's not really the best example. Like it's hard to explain, but also like at the end of this talk, I'm gonna be putting links and even I'm gonna be like giving the actual like clinical definition of OCD and like obsessions and in context OCD at the end of the video in order to, because honestly I'm not the best at explaining this stuff myself, but I'm just speaking my truth right now. But to close off this video, I have a message for everyone. I'm just gonna say to anyone struggling with OCD, it's like heavy intrusive thoughts that won't go away to the point where you may not even, to the point you're questioning your own morality or sense of reality. No matter if you have okay, so I'm not gonna mention her real name. So I'm just going to call her Lacey for now. But a big part of what led to me getting diagnosed with OCD and dealing with these intrusive thoughts back in 2020, 2021 was as I was in the height of dealing with the sexual the sexual obsessions and the porn addiction and watching really taboo shit like a lolicon, like I was just explaining everything. I was romantically talking to the girl that I'm gonna just call Lacey for now, and we met on Tinder and we were really hitting it off and everything was going well. We even had plans to meet up, but for some reason I understand why I did it. It's because, again, like I was saying, I was going through it mentally. I was having panic attacks due to having these thoughts, and my mind was stuck on the fact that I may actually be attracted to real minors. So I decided to open up to Lacey, right? So I decided to open up to Lacey about what I was going through, about watching, the taboo porn and all the sexual intrusive thoughts and the hentai involving minors and shit and whatnot. So basically, as a result, we got into a really big discourse, a really big fallout and fight over it. And in the end, and it basically ended with her essentially insinuating that I was a weirdo or a creep for being into lolly and being into and for watching and stuff to begin with. Even though it was all fictional characters and animated porn. So again, I would never watch actual CP or endanger any real life minors, anything like that. I'm well aware of that now. But at the time, I was just, I didn't understand the truth of thoughts and everything. So and that really affected me, and it really was giving me thoughts oh shit, I'm a monster. I might actually be a horrible person. So as a result, before I started therapy and understood the nature of OCD and sexual obsessions and whatnot, I pretty much just believed that might have been me, and when I was also dealing again with identity issues and everything on top of that, and this was also during the middle of the pandemic, so it got really bad and to the point where I was contemplating suicide. So that's a major factor of what led to me seeking out psychiatrists and seeking out medication, because I started off with hydroxyzine, I'm pretty sure that's how it's pronounced. Which is like a light anxiety medication, and I was on that for a while. As I was on the waiting list, to see a therapist. Then I started therapy with my first therapist, and after a few sessions, I ended up getting diagnosed officially with OCD, alongside bipolar disorder and panic disorder, and honestly, that was just the catalyst, like that was the start of my mental health journey, and it led to eventually I ended up getting bounced. Like I ended up having to see a different therapist, and starting in 2022, who I've been working with ever since. It's been a little over 2 years now, and I ended up attempting suicide and getting diagnosed and finding out I'm neurodivergent, getting diagnosed with ADHD, and I realized how autism traits and a lot of other stuff that I'll be getting into eventually. It's like, no matter if you have depression, like like a depressive disorder or anxiety disorder, personality disorder, like whatever the fuck you're going through, not like I'm here to tell you that none of the labels matter. What matters is like you have to have faith. You have to trust that no matter what you're going through, either mentally, physically, or in life, no matter who leaves your life, or what relationships you have, you you have to build a solid foundation within yourself. And every disorder and every symptom and every issue can be managed as long as you're willing to put in the work. And there's nothing wrong with seeking help. There's nothing wrong with starting with admitting that you need help. Because honestly, admitting that you need help is really the first step to getting better. It's the first step to evolving. And everyone needs a support system. So, and honestly, starting my mental health journey, therapy, and finally getting the resources to understand my own mind really saved my life. Like it's really been life changing. Ever since developing self-awareness, and now that I have the insight I need in order to really better myself. Like even though it's still fucking hard, like it's still painful. It's painful to live with OCD. It's painful to live with ADHD. It's painful to live with bipolar disorder and borderline personality disorder and body dysmorphia and the whole fucking list of everything that I deal with. But I'm living proof that even nearly 3 years later, in October, it'll be 3 years since my suicide attempt. And, it's just, and it's been 3 years since I started therapy. So these last 3 years, I can attest that the fact that I'm still here is a testament to, yeah, we all have it in us, we all have what we need in us. Everything will be okay. My name is Jalen. I'm Revo here. And to anyone who actually took the time to listen and to give me the chance to really explain my side, trust me, I really appreciate it. It's a blessing to be able to truly be vulnerable and to actually be able to have this conversation to begin with. So thank you for listening. All right, goodbye. Oh, and like I said, I'm gonna be having some screenshots of the actual definition of obsessive compulsive disorder, and even about intrusive thoughts and panic disorder. To give a full explanation. So to help people fully grasp what I'm talking about, so they can understand my perspective better. Okay, thank you. Bye. Until the next video. Love y'all.